Hello and welcome back again, my YouTubers. Thank you so much again for tuning into my channel. And in this video, I'll try to make it very brief. Simply want to just discuss the things you will need when determining what type of fabric to buy at the fabric store for your project. So before you even enter the fabric store, these are a few things you need to keep in mind. First of all, you need to know how many pieces you would need that's in your project that you're working on. So here we've been discussing designing the t-shirt. So we need approximately 7 pieces. We have our t-shirt sleeve. We have our neck ribbing for the back, excuse me, for the front and for the back. These are optional, but you don't actually really need those. And then here we have our front piece, t-shirt piece. And then we have our back t-shirt piece. And last but not least, we have our ribbing piece for the hem, the sleeve hem, and for the front bottom of the shirt, and then the sleeve hem. So those are 2 pieces, and those are optional as well. So that's one thing you need to keep in mind. How many pieces are within your project that you're working on? The second thing you need to know is how would you cut these pieces? So you see I have them all laid out according to my cut information on each piece. Most of the pieces I have are going to be cut on the fold. They're the biggest pieces. So my t-shirt front, it's being cut on the fold. So I have it, the fabric, which means the fabric is folded in half. Here's the fold. The fabric is folded in half, and then the pattern is lined up with the edge of the fold. That's what that means. So that's for the t-shirt front, as well as my t-shirt back. This is being cut on the fold. So you always want to read your pattern information according to how it's going to be cut. As well as my sleeve hem and the bottom of the hem, these are also cut on the fold according to my cut information. So I have these lined up with the edge of the fabric. And then for my sleeve, this is not going to be cut on the fold. So I simply just leave it here in the space. Now you want to try to conserve as much fabric as possible, so you want to use all the material. So I aligned my sleeve, put my sleeve pattern all the way up here to the top, and then I have my ribbing pieces up here at the top as well. You don't want to just put them in random spots and then just waste all this fabric here. So now we know how we want to cut these pieces. So after we know how many pieces we have and we know how we want to cut them, now we can determine how much fabric we could use. So a good rule of thumb is, I would suggest is, if you're not sure, you can always just take your measuring tape and measure your pattern piece, your front pattern piece and your back pattern piece. And that will give you a good idea of how long in inches and how much yardage of fabric you would need before you even go to the fabric store. So this here is typically 2 yards of fabric, which is a little bit more, as you can tell. It's a little bit more in the width, but as far as the length, it's like perfect. You always want to have more. It's better to have more fabric than less, just in case you mess up or if you run out of material. So this is typically 2 yards of fabric. And like I said, most of the pattern pieces are being cut on the fold, so I'm consuming most of the fold here with all the pieces that's being cut on the fold. And then I have all this extra here, like just in case I mess up or I need some more to cut out an extra piece. I have all this extra fabric here in the middle. And another way you can decide, like I said, you can take your measuring tape and you can measure the length of your front pattern piece as well as your back pattern piece. And you can go all the way down, and that can give you a good idea of how much fabric you need. Now if you have really big pattern pieces, or if you know if you have more pattern pieces, you can also you can decide how much of those you would need simply by just laying them out flat on the floor and then just measuring the width of all the pieces. So say for instance, if you have more pattern pieces, you have one here, and then one here, just lay them all on the floor and then just take your measuring tape and then just measure all the way across. And that will give you a good idea of how wide you want your fabric to be. because the width plays a factor too in deciding how much fabric you would need. If you have really big pattern pieces, but they're not being cut on the fold, you want to make sure you have a lot of fabric in the width, like so. So you can just take your measuring tape and measure across if you have more pieces to decide how much fabric you would need. So there you have it, guys. That pretty much explains what you'll need before you even enter the fabric store. I think it's very professional. It makes you look really educated and knowledgeable, knowing these things when you go before you go to the fabric store. And if not, you can always ask a clerk or someone who can assist you better and help you finding the right fabric, and just tell them about your project. Also, just take pictures of your project. And also just grab the fabric in the store that you like, just lay it out on a cutting table, and then just kind of picture how much you would need, and based on how many pieces you have and what pattern pieces are cut on fold. So if you take a picture of your patterns, then you will know what pieces are being cut on the fold, and you can decide how much fabric you need. You can just spread it out and how wide it would be. So that's what you'll need before you enter the fabric store. Now I'm going to talk about the things you will need while you're in the fabric store. So when you enter the fabric store, some of you might look at it as like being in a candy shop. You find so many things that you like, and you just get lost in the fabric and the colors and the textures. That's me. So I've been there before, trust me. So I'm gonna tell you what to do to stay focused when you're in the fabric store. The first thing you want to determine is what type of fabric is appropriate for your design. So like I mentioned in the previous videos, we're working on a t-shirt design. So if you take your t-shirt that you already wear, you know it's kind of like stretchy, it's kind of light, it's summery. So you want to find a fabric in the fabric store that's kind of similar to that material that you want to make a t-shirt of. You don't want to go over to the wool sections or go over to like the suiting sections for a t-shirt. I mean, especially if you want to make something really high end and you can pull it off. But you want to go more towards like summery, lightweight fabrics. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Determine what you're making first. If you're making a pair of pants, you might want to go to the denim section, or maybe to the wool suiting sections, or maybe the light wools or things like that nature. So keep in mind what you're making first to decide what area of the store you're going to go to and what type of fabrics you feel are appropriate for your design. And you determine those things by simply just checking the weight of the fabric. So if you have your fabric and you're making a t-shirt, you generally want something that's kind of light. You don't want nothing that's kind of too like heavy and like kind of like bulky and stuff like that. Something you can kind of work with as you're making it and stuff like that. So you want to definitely check the weight of the fabric. So here's my heather gray fabric. It's a jersey knit. It's kind of a really lightweight material. Perfect for spring, summer, things like that. You could probably even layer it for something in the fall. But that's definitely what you want to determine. You want to determine the weight of the fabric. The weight pretty much says a lot, because then you can tell how it's going to feel on you and things like that, and if it's going to be appropriate for your design. The next thing you want to check is your texture. Check the texture of the fabric. So just grab the fabric, just kind of like see how it feels, if it's rough, if it's coarse, if it's smooth. The texture says a lot. And also I find myself doing this a lot also too. I grab the fabric and I lay it across my skin to see how it feels. You want to know how the texture of the fabric is going to rub against your skin. You don't want enough that's really rough and gritty and makes you itch and things like that, especially if you have allergies or you react to certain things. You want to check that first. So that's pretty much the texture. You want to check the texture with the feel of the hand. And then the next thing you want to check is you want to check the stretch of the fabric. You want to see how the fabric stretches. If it's stretched, of course, it's going to be a knit. We categorize fabrics in two different categories, either a knit or a wool. Usually knits, they stretch a lot on the grain, and some of them even stretch on the four-way stretch, even top and bottom. And wools don't normally stretch that much. They're kind of like really stiff. They're really structured, strong, and have a really like coarse texture to them. So this is definitely a knit, a jersey knit, like I mentioned. So you want to stretch the fabric to see how it stretches. And you can also look at the texture, the grain of the fabric to see which direction the grains are going. This is a ribbing knit shirt. So you can see, as you can see, the ribbing is going vertically up and down the material. So check the stretch of the material. And also you want to check the drape. You want to see how the fabric drapes. You kind of want to just grab it with your hand like this, ball it, and just see how it would drape. See how resilient it is also, how it springs back into shape. Does it seem like it would be something that will keeps a smooth surface if it will get wrinkly pretty fast? And you want to just see how it drapes. Pretty much how it just drops down, it droops down on the skin or certain parts of the body. You want to see how it reacts to things like that. And like I said, you also check the grain, which is the lining of the material or the direction of the lines. You can pretty much tell based on which way the grain is by the stretch. Usually the grain of the fabric stretches lengthwise. Excuse me, it's not lengthwise. Usually the grain of the fabric stretches crosswise. It stretches the width of our body because our body grows proportionally in size this way. It doesn't grow proportionally in size vertically. So the fabric is always going to stretch widthwise, not lengthwise. So you definitely want to check that as well. So there you have it, guys. You have an idea of what to look for while you're in the fabric store, and then you have an idea of what to keep in mind before you enter the fabric store. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. In the next video, we'll get to the cutting process, and then we'll get to the sewing process, the more exciting part, and then you'll have your t-shirt all ready to go. I hope you guys enjoying this. Please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions or you feel I can do anything better, I know I'm bad at editing videos, but I'll get there. So if you need help or in the process, please feel free to leave me a comment, like, subscribe, because I'll definitely be having more content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned, and talk to you later. Bye.